you can't just talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. And whether it be music or makeup or whatever it may be, sometimes that can separate the hustler from the talker. I get so many people being like, how are you so open? And I'm like, you just see what I want you to see. Just because someone might look like they've got something on social doesn't mean they've got it all. I got to film with Nikki, Jeffrey. I look back and I'm like, definitely got caught up in it. We did $2 million on TikTok in a week. We make it happen. There's a lot at stake as well, so it is going to be chaotic. But no matter what I've got to do, I will make my dream come true.
Hello, Mitchell. It's so amazing to have you on. You're an icon. You're a living legend, and the girls absolutely love you.
I think that's you. I think that's
Honestly, we're both in our lane, and I love it. I have the urge to call you Made by Mitchell. Does that happen a lot?
I get called a few different things. I'll keep it clean. I get called Made by Mitchell. I get called Mama Mitchell. Those are the two things, but I feel like it's two different eras of my life. Mama Mitchell is kind of from when I first started out. And then obviously now that I've got the brand, I'm now Made by Mitchell. So people come up to me and are like, are you Made by Mitchell? I'm like, well, yeah, I am, but that's not my name.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And it's so iconic that your brand has now like kind of superseded you. But we're going to go into that shortly.
Okay.
Over here on the break, we explore wealth, right? And we feel like wealth is not just about money. It's about this full-blown concept of having a wealthy life. And I want to explore now, like, what does a wealth look like to you? This is our little icebreaker.
Okay. Wealth, again, I love that you go into it with that, because I think a lot of people do think wealth is just what money you've got in the bank, but you can be wealthy in so many ways. And I truly do believe I'm wealthy in so many ways. But my most important part of wealth that I strive for the most is stability in my life, whether it's financial or whether it's looking after my family or being able to do nice things for myself. Those things that make life a little bit less comfortable in a way. And I know we should never be in a comfort zone, but that's what I strive for now in my life. So yeah, I think it's the stability that...
Is there a reason for that then? So take it back.
I think probably because I wasn't brought up in the most stable household. Don't get me wrong, I was given every bit of love that I could ever get in my life. My mum and dad, amazing people. My sister's amazing, blah, blah, blah. But my mum and dad split up when I was around 7. And then my mum had quite a problem with alcohol for many, many years. She's getting there now.
Yeah.
And again, she lives with me again now, actually, but we'll get back into that. But I think because of that instability of growing up and kind of having to tend for myself, I think that is something that now I don't just want to tend for me, I want to tend for my family because they mean the world to me. But I think that is maybe where that comes from. I don't want anyone else to be able to take my comforts away from me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can understand that feeling of being in an uncomfortable situation growing up, and it forces you to be
Absolutely.
like, no, this is never going to happen to me again. And I want to take control.
And it's having that control. I've realized over the last few years I am a real control freak, and I think that might be because of those situations and environments that I was in when I was younger. But I also wouldn't change it for the world, because I think that's made me strive for where I am now. And I think without that, I probably wouldn't have wanted so much in my life, whether it be a nice house or whether it be to be able to look after my mom and dad. Like, I don't think I would have probably had that in my heart or in my soul if I didn't go through those things earlier in life. I'm grateful for it. It takes you some time to learn how to be grateful for trauma and hardships in life. But I'm really at a stage now where I'm just kind of taking it all in and reflecting on it all and just feeling very honoured that I got to go through it, because it's got me where I am today.
That's an interesting take of feeling honoured. And I feel like I just want to explore this a little bit, just because I've noticed the trait with a lot of people that I know who are successful and quote unquote wealthy. There's always this like something quite intense has happened in the past, right? And then they're super nonchalant. Like, so one of my stories is, my dad was deported, the police, and they took him out of the house. I'm like, yeah, my dad was taken from me. And then I had like Chrissy on, and she's like, yeah, I came on the back of a lorry. And it's like, wow, these things happen. And then the individuals who sometimes deal with these things end up having these kind of, this like stoicness and like, I got to keep pushing based on that. Where did you get that from then?
I think it's kind of like things are dealt with humor. Always. It's just the best way. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. So I think obviously my mum and dad splitting up, I was so young, I didn't really understand it at the time, but obviously that's such a tumultuous time that it really does affect you later on in life, especially with relationships as well. You have almost like a warped reality of what a relationship should be or how you should communicate in a relationship. So that was really my first ever representation of what a relationship was. And then obviously my mum having a problem with alcohol, that was something that scarred me for a very long time. And there's probably still those scars on me because it was a really tough time, especially being so young. And then my mum, a few years after she started becoming addicted to alcohol, she then got cancer. She got lymph node and breast cancer. Thankfully now she's all clear. She's been all clear for over 10 years now.
Amazing.
So, but even that, like, I remember this is a real funny story from when I was so young that really represents that, but I don't know how I was doing it so young. So my mum obviously lost all her hair, and my dad at the time, even though my mum and dad had split up, my dad had moved back in to look after my mum. Amazing, honestly, those two. I don't know where I'd be without them. Anyway, not talking about them right now. I'm talking about this. But anyways, my mum had obviously lost all her hair, which obviously, as a woman especially, that's like the most heartbreaking time of your life. Like, to a lot of people, that's your womanhood, isn't it? Obviously, I didn't really understand that growing up because I'm about 7 years old.
Exactly.
But then as I'm getting older, I started to understand that you can play with humor a little bit more. So I remember my dad is not is such a pushover. He'll just wants everyone to be happy. But my mum is like the boss. She's always just been that way. Anyway, my mum came down one evening and she had no hair and she had furry slippers on, like monster feet.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, the hair must be growing back on your feet. And my dad was like, oh. But I think I must have been like that from a very young age because you're kind of battling something so serious with something that maybe most people wouldn't laugh at, but that was our coping mechanism.
For sure.
So yeah, I think that's, even now with my mum, like whenever my mum has a glass of wine, even though my mum doesn't drink how she used to, we're like, oh, bloody hell, here she goes. So that's how and it's, not everyone would agree with it. And I think probably sometimes my mum thinks, mate, shut up now.
Yeah.
It's been years. Give me a break. But yeah, that is just how I've dealt with things. And that is my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But I don't really ever think about it until it's brought to you, like what you just did. And I love being able to think about stuff like that.
People never know what people are dealing with.
Oh, no, of course. And people don't know why people might be talking about that certain issue, like truly. Because I think even on social, I think it's kind of a known thing. Well, not a known thing, but people think that they really know influencers inside and out. I mean, there's some people that decide to show every part of their life, but like me, for example, I get so many people being like, how are you so open? And I'm like, you just see what I want you to see. Like, I don't really show you so much of it. You know, that you still might talk on a certain topic, but you might not give your personal experience under that topic. So you never really know the full story, you know, unless you've been there.
Is there a reason why you feel like you need to hide parts of yourself?
I think more so just for mental peace. Because, you know, it comes with, listen, I will never complain about being on social media. It's given me so many amazing things in my life.
Yeah.
But along with the amazing things and all the amazing lessons and opportunities I've had, you get so many unwanted opinions. And to me, I'm really at a point in my life where I really respect people's feelings and thoughts. However, if I've not asked for your opinion, please just don't give it. So I think if I minimize how many situations people can give their opinion to, I just feel like I'm in a bit more of a peaceful place mentally. And not having to deal with people's opinions, because that's just, I mean, you'll know, it's something we've had to do for many years. So.
I feel like I've had to learn to get there, and I'm traumatized from being cancelled on so many times that I've had to learn to basically be like silent online and like minimize my personality, because people often don't like people with big personalities.
No,
I don't know what it is. We're terrifying.
We are.
Like, what is it? Like, we're not scary.
I think the world is like slowly waking up to it a little bit, because I think everyone has a big personality inside them. I think it's just what material you use to outreach it, you know? So I do feel like things are changing a little bit, but for a long time it has been like, oh, she's so loud. He's so loud. It's like, no, we're just happy and being fun. That's all it is. You should try it.
Or we're depressed and we're masking and we're like putting it out there as a way to help ourselves as well. But
even that, we're laughing at that. So it's the coping mechanism. It really is.
So take it back. You were on X Factor because you're like an amazing singer.
You've really gone deep.
Yeah, we've gone deep. Tell me about those days.
Yeah, so even before I had one makeup product, I've been singing all my life. So from the age of 4 or 5 years old, I was sent to singing lessons. It was just my heart. I loved it. I loved my performing. And then after school, I'd done obviously like school musicals and stuff like that, as you do. And then as I got to college, I went to a music college to do like a music diploma. And then from there, a talent management. It was actually Fascination, who manage All Saints, had reached out to the college to create two bands, a girl band and a boy band. So I was like, oh my God, let's do it. But me in a boy band just doesn't really, it's not really the...
You feel like an independent kind of guy.
Yeah, I am definitely more of an independent. But even just me in a boy band at that time, it just makes me laugh thinking about it. But anyway, we ended up getting onto the X Factor. We got through the first and second. So the first audition, boot camp, and then we got to 6 Chair Challenge. I think it was the first year that they did 6 Chair Challenge. This was so long ago. And then we got a chair. We got the chair taken off us. Then we got a chair again and got it taken off us. And I think that was just such a traumatic time for me. I thought, this is my life. It's made now. Back in the day, you used to think if you went on X Factor, you made it. Like, that was it. Like, you've got a record deal, you're good. Like, you don't have to ever work a day in your life. But that's furthest thing from the truth. So then after that, I'd been on just such like a up and down kind of spiral that I was, I just need to step away and do something different now. And at the time, I had a friend who'd just opened a salon. And I just started working there on a weekend. I've always worked on weekends anyway, because before X Factor, I would gig around pubs, social clubs. So I was so used to working on the weekend, and I loved that because it was just like I can work really hard all weekend and earn the same amount of money as what I would do if I worked 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So I then started working in the salon, then ended up picking up makeup brushes, and it was just kind of like a natural progression and something I fell in love with, and then something in turn that then kind of took over my love for music, even though I still love music. How can you not?
I'm going to take this back, because let's think about this. You're on X Factor. That's the biggest TV show. You're like in a boy band and you were recruited. So you're probably thinking, life's about to be made.
Yep.
I'm about to be famous. They're going to see me. Everyone in my town's going to know me, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people maybe have these moments where like something that looks like that's going to be the thing that's game changing for me.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Is there a level of like, back then, a level of like, oh, this is embarrassing. I'm
yeah,
working in a salon at the weekend.
I guess there was. I was never really embarrassed to work in a salon because I've always been brought up around working. Like my mum and dad, I remember they always used to do the night shift and the day shift. So work to me is nothing to ever be embarrassed of, no matter where you're working. But I think that maybe there was embarrassment on the fact that I'd been like, oh yeah, I'm going on X Factor. I've been fast tracked all the way out. Yeah. So I think that was probably embarrassing in that sense, especially as well. There was the 2 bands that were created from my college, and my really good friend from college actually got put into the girl band, and they went on to live shows. So I think that probably, looking back, I probably was a little bit bitter and jealous, which I look back at now and I'm just like, you were so young and you didn't have a clue. But again, it's that when you're young, sometimes you feel like you owed the world, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think I probably had that. So I was probably a little bit embarrassed and probably a bit bitter about that, to be fair.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
But it's some people don't necessarily bounce back from like that heyday of being successful. I've seen some people who are really like, I'm a rapper, I'm about to make it. Like I was in, I'm not going to say a crew name. It's like, babe, let it go. Like it's over. And they can't really, navigate onto that next stage or next journey of their life and like seeing what opportunities present themselves.
I think that really like, sometimes that can separate the hustler from the talker, I think to really be able to like create something and have longevity in something, whether it be music or makeup or whatever it may be, I think you can't just talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. And I think that those situations really separate the people that can either sometimes take something on the chin and be like, okay, that wasn't for me, but that doesn't mean this isn't for me. I truly believe that's just what I've been taught through my life, through my mum and my dad, because again, they've never had like crazy academic jobs or very well paying jobs, but they've always showed up to work. And even if something didn't work out, they'd find a way to make something else work. So, which is probably what I mean, I've not got kids, so I don't know, but you kind of have that. You have to do that when you've got kids, 100%. Don't you? Like you've got people that rely on you, and my mum and dad obviously had kids that relied on them, and they showed up. I
have this statement, which is fail fast. Like I do so many things that flop, right? I've had so many failures. Channels that have failed, videos that have failed, work that's failed, businesses that have failed. And like, I really believe in, I'm not going to be embarrassed of my failures.
Oh, no.
I'm just going to keep it pushing. That's what will separate me from you. Absolutely. Is I'm not going to allow that to stop me. And if I have to work in a salon or work in a pub or clean floors, I'm going to do what I have to do to be successful.
But again, that is what separates someone that just wants to be successful or needs that success. Like I feel like we are very similar in that way of we make it happen. But no matter what I've got to do, I will make my dream come true in one way or another. So I think, again, the talker from the walker, two very different people.
Love that. So then you're in the salon, you're getting into makeup, and then you create an online platform. You're on Instagram first, or is it YouTube?
No, it was Instagram first. And I kind of my Instagram was just followed on from high school, really. So it was never really like created to be a portfolio of any kind of means. It was very much just for me and my friends to look at. And then I did a little bit of YouTube at the start, some very short-lived YouTube content. I grew up on the years of YouTube where it was Jeffrey, Nikki, Jacqueline, and Manny, Laura, Jackie, all of those beautiful, the best time. I just saw these people for what they were on YouTube. And obviously then I had amazing opportunities. I got to film with Nikki. I then got to film with Jeffrey, and the doors that were opened from those opportunities were just incredible. I can never, ever thank them enough for them kind of fast tracking me in a way, because I don't believe that they would have never been opened, but I think they opened a lot quicker because of those opportunities. And I'll never be ungrateful for those. And even the experiences we had together as friends as well. I think as I've got older as well, I've just really started to put moral a bit more before an opportunity sometimes. I'm not necessarily so proud that I didn't do that sooner. However, that is part of life. You learn and you grow, and I think I was probably just in a time where I was like, oh my God, these people want to work with me. Like, I've always looked up to them. Like, I've always watched them. So there's this kind of like starry-eyed kind of young lad that has come from Bolton in Manchester. And I'm like, oh my God, now I'm flying to LA to... So it's... I think that that's very easy to be caught up in.
Yeah.
And I definitely got caught up in it. And I think COVID hit, obviously, then we became so secluded to ourselves. And I think that's when, it was really when I started working on the brand properly. But that's when I really started to realize, actually, I'm creating something that's bigger than me now. And I really want to make sure that my life outside the brand really mirrors, it matches.
Yeah.
And that's where I decided, I was like, okay, there's people in my life now that I'm associated with that I don't really share the same morals with. And that's okay. Like, not everyone has to be on the same page all the time. However, I just want to I want to represent myself in a way that I truly believe that I am. And I feel like sometimes associating yourself with certain people does the opposite. So that's kind of where things started to change in that front. And I get asked about it all the time. Like, why are you friends with Jeffrey anymore? And I'll be honest, no. Did anything happen? No. It was just kind of like a natural distance, I guess. But, and again, I'm never going to say I'm not grateful for those opportunities that I had and the friendship we had. However, I look back and I'm like, okay, what were you doing sometimes?
For sure.
Because you really did step out of what your own model was. You know?
Love this. Okay, we're going to explore this because this is a topic I want to cover, which is like friendships and relationships and network, which I think is also part of wealth. So first part of my question is, why do you think that they picked you to kind of, we want to bring him along, you know?
I don't know. Why did they? I think I've never really asked myself that question because I'm just, don't ask questions. Just go, just do it. Take the opportunity. I think that's probably what I was doing at that time. I think I was doing something different. I think I kind of made my own lane. I wasn't necessarily a YouTuber or an influencer per se. I was a makeup artist that was teaching technique over teaching gossip or teaching like opinion on something. I was teaching straight up technique. And I think we was really in a time then, the 2016 glam time, where people really loved and appreciated being taught something. And now we're at a point where people still love to be taught makeup, of course, but it's not as necessary anymore because a lot of people have been taught it, or they've picked up the really basic skills that then they can then adapt it to their own makeup routine.
Sure.
I think it was just my approach was very different to others at the time. And also I was not afraid to ask to be in someone's room. Like I was never like, hello. I always went in with my head held high. And again, it's probably the northern in me. I'm just a bit like, hey guys, all right, how are you?
Yeah, I love it.
That's probably where that came from. And I think that was quite a bit, I think it was fascinating. I also think at the time, I always say timing is everything. And I remember I was at the time in talks with Manny MUA and Jeffrey to film a video. At this point, they were still friends in my eyes, but obviously things had happened behind closed doors. Anyway, I got a date with Jeffrey and it all kicked off. and it
One
Dramageddon.
second. I just want to say, this is very specific to the world of beauty guru
Yes,
influencers.
very specific.
Well, I know exactly
Oh, I
what
know,
you're
you know.
talking about. I'm here with a cup of tea. Not everyone is aware of
Okay.
this. But if you understand 2016 makeup world, ooh,
Wow.
it was a different world.
Yeah, so the beauty world exploded. It was called Dramageddon.
Yes, it was. Ooh.
And it really was Dramageddon.
It was.
Anyway, that happened, and then Jeffrey and Manny and their group had all broken apart, hadn't they? And thankfully, I'd got a date in. Naturally, it wasn't out of being tactical or anything like that. I got a date in with Jeffrey. So the date with Jeffrey came out, but then I think it was a few days before my video with Jeffrey first posted. This is when everything came out about Jeffrey, Manny, Laura, all those people, and everyone was on Jeffrey's side. So really, that could have been, if it was the other way, I could have then not known about any of this drama, and then the video would have gone up and everyone would have been against me as well because I'm associated. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And it's a shame that anyone had to go through all the backlash, because it's a lot for one person to take. But timing is everything, and thankfully timing was on my side at that time, because I was in the good lane of the viewer, you know. So it's a crazy time. Crazy time to be alive.
And this is a really important point around like relationships and networking, because having, you know, those associations at the right time actually really elevated you. And
absolutely.
I really believe in the power of networking. But I also love when you said about, you know, choosing your morals and actually what you're aligned with, because not every friendship, not every person, and not every network is a good one. Now I can imagine the more successful you've become, the more people reach out. How are you able to decipher good from bad?
Do you know what? I don't feel like I attract much bad anymore.
Love
and
that.
I think that's because that's what I'm inside now, and I'm letting that off, and you are what you attract. And I don't really have to decipher too much anymore. I kind of, if something feels right, it feels right. And I don't really ever get opportunities. Even like the last few months I've got to do podcasts. I'm here today with you and Icon. And these connections have never really been made before. And I think that is partly because of what my morale has become, and because it's more true to who I am, and people can obviously see that, hopefully anyway. So yeah, I don't think I've got to decipher too much anymore. I think it kind of is, a lot of the people I work with become my friends, and real friends that I would go out with and have dinner with and have a sleepover with. And I think that is kind of where I'm at in my life now. And I don't really want anyone in my life that I wouldn't really class as a friend at some point, in a small magnitude or a large magnitude.
So you don't believe in keep your enemies closer? What's the sentence that they say?
Keep your
friends close and your enemies closer.
I like to think I don't have any enemies.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't like what for what.
Delulu is the Salulu.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no enemies.
Yeah, that's maybe it is delusion actually.
I love it. So let's talk a little more about how Klarna works. You've probably seen it while shopping online, but did you know it's not just about splitting payments? Klarna offers you a choice of payment options, including Pay Now, which lets you pay up front in full, or pay in 3, which helps you to spread the cost interest-free. And you can also choose to pay in 30 days, which can be helpful if you need to see the item before you make a decision, but you might not want to be out of pocket. What I love most about using Klarna is that they've got your back. For example, you can pause your payment if something goes wrong with your order, or extend your due date if you need more time. And of course, you can pay your balance in full at any time to help you stay on top of things. It's about giving you the freedom to shop smarter and not harder. If you want to know more about how Klarna works, head to klarna.com for more details. Just to know, borrowing irresponsibly may negatively impact your financial status. Pay in 3 and pay later are unregulated. Terms and conditions and late fees do apply. And borrowing irresponsibly may negatively impact your financial status and ability to obtain credit. So be smart. So talking about your online community, they are so engaged with you and your product. How did you go about genuinely building this depth?
I think it really started when I first started my page. It was all about teaching, and I was doing something that at the time most pro makeup artists were charging for. I was doing it for free. So I think that kind of is a great way to start, because people are like, oh, you're doing this for free when you've got this person that's doing it for thousands of pounds. So I think at first people had opened their arms to me quite a lot because I was helping them. And I think that is what community should be. You should help each other. But now recently, I'll be honest, I've never seen anything like it, like what I've seen with the brand on with Made by Mitchell. They are so dedicated to the brand, so dedicated to me, so dedicated to my team as well. That whenever we do things, it's in-person events or anything like that, or when we've done our pop-ups, like it's crazy the response to it, and just how excited people get is something that even when I was popping off back in the day with when I was on everyone's YouTubes, when I was on Jeffrey's YouTubes and all that, like the response that I had then is nothing compared to what I have now. And I feel like now I do it in a little bit more, it's a very loud way, of course, and we definitely make moves, but it feels a bit more natural now. Just naturally is growing at a really healthy, sustainable rate. And I think that's kind of what I love about the community that we've built now and that we're continuing to build.
So walk me through your plan for building this brand. Was it intentional, or has this happened because of the dedication?
It's definitely a dedication. I mean, when we started the brand, obviously you don't start anything and not want it to be successful, do you? Like why would you do it? So we definitely wanted success out of it. Did we think it was going to be this huge in this amount of time? For anyone that doesn't know, we started the brand in October 2020. So in the midst of lockdown. So we kind of were, it was a bit of a hobby to me at the start. I was just kind of like, this is just taking me away from what everyone is going through. This is just kind of something to keep my creative heart going. But now, for nearly 4 years on, I can't believe where we've got to. But it really is the dedication, and I think it's that pebble effect, isn't it? It's once you've had one success, you're like, oh my God, what can we do next? What can we do next? But I'm always only ever thinking about that next one, never about the next 5. Because to me, the world changes so quickly, platforms change so quickly, and that way for me, I just can keep control of things a little bit more. And rather than thinking about the next 10 years, I'm thinking about the next couple of years. And that way I just feel like I can make those leaps a little bit more safely. And that helps me. It keeps my mind at bay, because if not, I'm a stress head.
Your first success, what did that look like? And if you don't mind sharing the numbers, I think that would be super valuable as well.
God, there's been a lot of success, whether it's financial or in my personal life. I think buying a house was definitely a success for me personally. I'll give you a bit of like a rundown of it, because about a year and a half before I bought my house, it was £850,000. And
in Manchester?
Yeah, in Manchester.
Well, that must be a gorgeous little house.
Well, it's not anymore because I've just ripped it apart.
Oh.
So anyway, that's another story. But yeah, it's a beautiful house. It was built in the 70s. It's very like Miami Vice, very Palm Springs. I'm obsessed. Can't wait for it to be done. But I bought my house. That was such a huge achievement for me, not just because it was my first house, and I've done it all by myself. It was a huge achievement because nearly 2 years before, probably less, I'd spent all my money because I was just so reckless with my spending. All my own personal money was just gone. So the fact that I've then 2 years later, less than 2 years, I'd managed to save for a big deposit. I'd managed to afford these monthly payments of a mortgage. Like that to me meant a lot to me. Because it was just like, wow, what a difference having a team around you can make. And for a long time, I just made all my own decisions on things I didn't have a clue about. When I ended up deciding to make a change and build a team, that's when things started to come into fruition, and I started to have my own boundaries with myself and my own money. And then that was a day that I'll never forget that day. I was like, I can't believe this actually happened. I never thought I'd get to this point. I thought I'd always be a renter, and there's nothing wrong with renting, but I was just wasting so much money and putting so much money into someone else's bank account to pay their mortgage.
For sure.
That was like, I need to stop this, because not everything is forever. So I need something that will be stable, and that if everything goes to shit, can I say that?
You can say it.
If everything goes to shit, then at least I've got this. Then that's for my house, for my family, for me. But then business wise, one of the biggest successes I think that I've ever had was when we did $2 million on TikTok in a week.
$2 million in 1 week.
It was insanity, honestly. And I'm like, I think sometimes you might hear that and be like, what must you have done? We did not stop for a week straight. We was basically just posting for 24 hours a day. We was on live 24 hours a day, really just taking in every aspect of that platform and how their e-com side works. Because we started off with TikTok Shop a very long time ago, maybe like 2 and a bit years ago. And we were one of the first to really like take hold of it and really take them under our wing and be like, we trust you, now support us. So we really kind of, my team really kind of built the back end of TikTok Shop with TikTok Shop. Because,
you're kidding me.
Yeah, because as a, we were looking at it as a brand, but also as a consumer, because we were dealing with consumer complaints. But then also we had our own complaints. So then we would, like every month we'd have at least one meeting with TikTok to be like, right, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, this is right, this is right. And that's how then the application and the back end of it was built to become such a solid e-commerce site. I'm not saying that there wasn't other influencers, of course, but we really, really did give them a lot of time at the start. And now we're spreading our wings a little bit more. However, that was just an insane achievement. I can't actually believe that happened.
So from going broke to making 2 million in a week, what are some of those emotions that you felt when that happened?
It's scary. It's so scary. It's overwhelming, definitely. And it doesn't feel real because you're like, actually, like I was skint not long ago. And I've spoke about this a few times and people are always like, how are they saying he was skint? I think people don't, sometimes, maybe I've played into it as well. Just because someone might look like they've got something on social doesn't mean they've got it all. Like, and just because I was living in a beautiful apartment doesn't mean I've got it all.
Yeah.
The apartment that I was living at the time where I went skint I was paying, I think it was £5,500 a month rent, which was crazy. But I basically had a CCJ from many years ago. So I didn't realize about the CCJ. So I go to, they do all my checks. And because I hadn't told them about the CCJ, they said, the only way you get in this house is if you pay 12 months up front. So I did it thinking, oh, it's fine. I've got this next month.
12 months rent you paid up front of 5, months. So £60,000 up front.
60 something thousand pounds and then a deposit. So honestly, I'm tapped. I'm good now, better. But I've definitely been through some serious journeys with money, absolutely. But after that, that's when things started to slow down a little bit at that time. Work wasn't, we weren't selling as much during them next few months. And I'd spent every last penny that I'd earned on this house. And I was like, okay, it's fine. We'll get paid next month. So you just have all these thoughts, don't you? So that was just insane because I was, again, living in my dream apartment. I paid it off, so I was fine for a year. But I knew that after that year went out, unless I'd made changes, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
So that was like, it was a blessing really that I did pay for it all 12 months up front, because then it gave me a full year of no rent. It felt amazing. I was like, oh my God, I'm living here for free. I'm basically squatting in this apartment. A full year of living here where I can really start to get my head down and figure out my own strategy for not just my for the business, but also for my own personal wealth and how I can start to earn and maintain a little bit more healthily.
Yeah. I feel like that's the opposite. So I've been so lucky. I've made money opposite of myself. I've made money like from literally when I was from 13 years old, because I was broke. The family is broke, so I need to make a living. But even when I made a lot of money, I lived like I was so broke. Like I will walk to the shop rather than paying a delivery fee of £2.99.
Yeah.
Like I was that kind of person.
I wish I knew you a few years ago.
I would have helped you out a little bit. But then I've had to train myself to be like, go on, spend a little more, like have fun, because either you can be super frugal like I am, but then you're like, I'm suffering, or you can be overindulgent and be like, oh, where's the next check coming from?
And you can still suffer.
And suffer as well.
It's the balance of it. And again, that is something that it's so crazy because I feel like we probably both come from very similar beginnings, in very humble beginnings.
Sure, yeah,
And
exactly.
again, my dad was a bus driver. He was a bus driver for over 40 years. My mum didn't work, obviously, through having cancer and whatever. So we lived in a council house. My mum made it lovely. It was a gorgeous council house by the end of it. But again, we didn't have any extra money at the end of the month. So I think you either go one way, you either have your parents' kind of mindset and like, okay, no, we've got to save, or you have my mindset where you're like, okay, well, I've never had money before, so let's go and spend it. And I wish I didn't have that. However, it's got me to where I am now, and it's taught me lessons that I wouldn't have learned otherwise.
For sure.
And it's also taught me a lot about to not put everything on money. Like money can go like that.
Like that.
Money can go like that. Whether even if you're saving or being super clever, like the world can go like that. So I think for me, again, this is why I love what you talk about with wealth. It's not just financial wealth. Really invest in every avenue of your wealth, whether it's your creative wealth, whether it's your relationship wealth. Like, so that has taught me a lot about that, because even when I have gone broke and I've been like, oh my God, what am I going to do? There's people around me that have never let me down. And I will always be grateful for that, because I don't know where I'd be without them.
Amazing. You mentioned that the moment you went broke and then you bought your house, that you built a team around yourself. Can you explain what that means to you?
So I was really blessed in a sense, because my best friend, Holly, she's incredible. She's a bit older than me, so she's always kind of been like a big sister. And she basically introduced me to another one of her best friend's sisters. She's called Janine. She's my business manager. So introduced me to her, and then Janine said, I really want to help you out. And at the time, I couldn't be helped, and I didn't want the help. So I needed to really go on that journey myself. Anyway, I was in Ibiza, actually, at Blue Marlin.
Oh, I love a little Blue Marlin.
Oh, it's fabulous, isn't it? Anyway, I don't know how I was there, because again, I didn't have any money, but I was like, just faking it, so I made it. I ended up seeing Janine there, and we were obviously super drunk, and we ended up chatting, and that's where the relationship started at Blue Marlin. And she was like, I'm going to sort you out. And at the time, when you're drunk, you're just like, okay, whatever. But she really did. She came into my life. She got so much in place where we changed accountants, because my accountant from before was kind of just like a small town accountant that didn't really deal with big sums of money, didn't really know how to be clever as well. So anyway, Janine came into my life, and she then introduced me to a new accountant, and really just started to give structure to my personal finances, because before I honestly used to just spend money quicker than it was coming into the bank. So yeah, she really changed my life in so many ways.
Yeah. Do you know what I love here? And this is again a wealth topic, which is relationships and having a good time. Again, I was frugal. I didn't go out. I got married. I was so productive, blah, blah, blah. I'm that girl, right? I'm very like straight line. And I got to a place where I'm like, I need to have a good time. And like last year was my fun season, and everybody noticed online. They're like, oh, Patricia's outside.
Yeah,
yes.
I loved it.
Socializing is important. Having a little drink is important. But just because you're outside, it doesn't mean you're not productive. You're out in Ibiza, Blue Marlin, a little drunk, and you connect with someone who basically helps you change your life. And so this is what I love to let people know. A good time doesn't mean you're lazy or like you're not doing what you should be doing, because you never know who you're going to meet in great social situations.
Absolutely.
And I now like carve out time in my diary for craziness.
Yeah.
I even have an alias, like a different name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Patrice.
Patrice.
That's my on the streets name.
Okay, I love
just
this.
having a little character.
I love this. Yeah.
And I think it's so important. I think people think that people who are hustling and running business, that all they do is sit at home on their laptop.
No.
Which sometimes they do.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I do that pretty much Monday to Friday, and it'll be all through the day, all through the night. I sleep so late. I'll sleep at like 2 a.m. and wake up at like 6, 7. So I'm not really a long sleeper unless it's on the weekend. And I will honestly sleep all day on a weekend sometimes. Just because life is so crazy, and I'm always up and down the country or out the country. Again, that time to me, I really value that time with not just even to gain something in a professional way, but for me mentally to be able to spend time with my friends. That is so important to me. And going back to the girls that I worked in the salon with and having my weekend with them and getting wild with them, that to me makes my heart happy. So, and I need that, or else you just feel like you're on this everlasting Ferris wheel where you can never get off. And I think everyone has their own work styles, but that to me just isn't a healthy way to work. I think unless you take yourself out of it, you can never really tell yourself why you're doing what you're doing. And for me, I'm doing these things so that I can, my family and my friends are my family. I'm doing this to be able to provide not just myself, but them better experiences in life. So if I don't have that reminder of this is why I'm doing it, and these are the people that I'm doing it for, what am I just, again, you're just kind of doing it for the sake of it.
Exactly. And that's a super important thing, is about finding a reason, your why of why you're doing what you're doing. If not, there's no reason. And it's okay for the reason be, I just want to have a good time, and I want my friends to have a good time. I want my family to have a good time, and I want to enjoy life to the fullest.
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't always have to be to save the world. Like,
no,
in my opinion, like,
listen, like I think I don't think one person can change the world. I think it takes sort of like a real collective of people to do that. Again, you might have the leader and then you have the follower, but that's still a real group of people, whether it's 3 people or 3,000 people or 3 million people. And I do like to think what I'm doing with Made by Mitchell is hopefully adding to a positive narrative of why it's so important to include everyone. I really do hope that that's what I'm doing, because that's my intentions of it all. However, I know that me creating a blush palette is not going to change the world. Like that's insane. However, it can change someone's day, and that's kind of how I like to deal with it. Like one day at a time, I like to take it. And if I can make one person feel seen that maybe hasn't ever felt seen in a campaign or in a product before, then that it actually makes me emotional, because that's just like the most magical feeling.
Exactly.
Like buying a product and feeling like it's actually made for you, whether you're fair, medium, light, deep, whatever you may be. To feel seen is a real important thing that I think everyone should get to experience.
100%.
Not just once.
Agree. 100%. And it's the same with entertainment. Like some people can look and be like, what these girls do on the internet is of no value. They're getting dressed, but actually inspires another girl to maybe like get dressed for the day.
Absolutely.
I might say the same thing about a guy kicking a ball. Why?
Well, I probably would, but
like,
I
I'm
get
like,
it.
why is this entertaining? But it probably, gives people camaraderie, makes them feel good.
Yeah.
And this is why I don't judge what people find entertaining or valuable, because there's value in so many different things.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to explore creativity, because creativity is also an aspect of wealth. How do you find your creative spark, and how do you stay creative?
I think for me, I like to try and take myself out of my everyday environment, and that gives me just a new lease of life when it comes to creativity. However, we work so fast at Made by Mitchell, we're always bringing out new products, and it's products that we worked on at least 6 months ago. And then because we worked on them so long ago, but it's kind of been so fast, that to me is like an inspiration of creativity. Seeing something go from the first idea to the final product, it makes me just want to do more. Also, people's responses to things as well. I'm a big listener to our consumer, and if I feel like something's missing, then I'm like, okay, we need to add this next time. So for example, one of our most viral products, the Curve Case, which is the blush and bronzer palettes, I really thought I cracked the code with the shade range, and I still am very confident that it's a great shade range for everyone. However, a lot of people were saying, even though I can use some of the shades in the deep palette, and even though I can use some of the shades in the light palette, I can't use all the shades. So I was like, okay, let's revisit. So now we've got a lighted palette and a deeper palette coming out. And I think once that comes out, that has again been fully inspired by the consumer, of where they've said, yeah, it's great, but I just need a bit more of this or this. So when that comes out, that will just be a solid range, and I actually can't wait. I'll show you the palettes. They're incredible. But when that comes out, that's just like, again, that final moment of being like, wow, we did this. Not just me, myself personally, but again, it was also inspired by what my consumer wanted and needed. So yeah, I think for me to stay creative, it's just to listen to my surroundings, or sometimes take myself out of them as well.
I'm going to ask questions that I want to know, actually, from being business owner to business owner. I'm starting my own brand at the moment. Oh, it's a journey.
Yeah, it is.
How do you work with getting your development so fast? Do you have a really tight production team?
Our production team it's like, that's a whole department in itself that works so quickly, and they don't really work on anything else.
Is that in-house?
Yeah, in-house.
Oh, wow.
We do everything in-house. We've started to distribute a little bit some of our TikTok orders, like they take some through FBT, which is fulfilled by TikTok, but that just takes a little bit of stress off our backs, because even though we are growing at a very fast rate, we're still a tiny team. But yeah, our product development, we fly a lot in. So that takes a lot of time off, but also it's literally just being prepared. You can create things quickly if you really know what you're doing and when you want to bring it out, and also where it's going to go. Like, are we going to put it in this warehouse or this warehouse? Like, it is just preparation. For example, when we did the $2 million in 1 week, I think the amount of people that were messaging me being like, oh my God, money Mitch. I was like, listen, I ain't seen that $2 million. That's going straight back into the company. So I think once that happens, and it's always being invested back, things can be happening quicker.
Yeah.
And also, we're not owned by a big conglomerate. We're a very indie brand who makes their own rules. And that does give us a little bit more leeway of being like, okay, we launched this last week. Should we launch this week?
Yeah.
So we do things very naturally. And I think that's what allows our products to be so organically grown, because it's not too planned. Like, for example, I'd launched blush balms the other day, which are balm sticks. And then a few other brands have launched them, and I'm like, I'm doing something right here, but I didn't even plan. I didn't know they were launching it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there was another one a few weeks ago, and I was like, we really are just like, I'm on the right trajectory here, because what the big dogs are doing,
Yeah.
I'm doing it, and I didn't even know that they were doing it.
I developed a hair serum
Yeah, yeah,
literally 3 years ago, right? Scalp serum.
Mm-hmm.
So no one uses serums or toners on their scalp, right? And I was like, well, why don't we apply the concept of skincare to scalp?
Yeah.
And now I've noticed like all the big brands all have scalp serums.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I must have been onto something. I'm a little late now and I don't have the budget that they have to kind of promote and market it. But it's really nice to know that out of your head, you can come up with something that's so creative and so valuable that it changes the market.
Absolutely. It's great. It's a great feeling, and it's that feeling of being like, okay, pat myself on the back. So yeah, and again, I really would love to try that, because I actually think I might be receding a
You
little
might
bit.
have received some PR. I would love for you to like check it out.
I can't wait, because I'm really on a hair journey as well. So,
oh, are you? Okay, fabulous. And we're going to do our first like launch event. And,
okay, great.
I'm learning from you guys. This is why I wanted to do a podcast and like sit down and talk with the founders who are doing it, because I got to start from the ground up, like everybody else does.
It's starting from the ground up, and starting with not necessarily like big corporate investors, and even though that can sometimes be great, I just think sometimes for me, our journey has been so magical, because we've not necessarily had rules or too much expectation, or we've not had loads of targets we need to hit each day. We kind of just make every day up as we go. I can't lie. That is what we do in business the most of the time. I will never lie and say that we have planned things like a month ahead. It's normally like a few weeks before, 2 weeks before. I'm like, okay, this is coming now. This shipment is coming in. So that means we can launch it on this date. I can't say that we can do that forever.
Yeah.
Because that's just not, as we grow and as we become more retailed throughout the business. We definitely have to have more structure there. But when you first grow in a brand, and when you've got that demand for what the consumer wants, it's a great thing to be able to do, because you can be a bit more free with it. And again, for us, we bring out so much product. So if we feel like a certain product isn't going to work this time of year, we can be like, okay, well, let's put that aside for a month or two, and we'll launch this instead. So that freedom is priceless, I think.
I used to think I was a bit crazy and chaotic, but I think
that's
when it comes to like business and stuff, people are a little crazy and chaotic. It's okay.
It took me a while to realize as well, is there's a lot at stake as well. So it is going to be chaotic, but you can also still have structure to chaos. And it just might not be the traditional way of having structure, but I think we're kind of out of a traditional world now.
Exactly.
Things have to be done differently.
It's 2024, baby, and stuff is changing.
Yeah, it really is.
So outside of money and business, what are some of the biggest wealth gains you feel like you've had?
One of my most proudest things that I've ever done is being able to tell my dad he can retire.
Yeah.
Like, that was just like, it might seem so simple to some people, but that to me was, my dad, he's worked on buses for nearly 50 years.
Yeah, wow.
And for him to be able to not do that, and to go on holiday and still have money. And I just bought him a car, actually. So now I'll be able to see my dad every day, because he's going to drive me to work. He's like my driver now, which is great. So it's still like, it's still a little bit of it's still what he's so used to. And he's still doing something every day. But to me, that is my proudest moment. And again, it might seem so simple and quite small in a way, but when you can look after the people that have put everything else aside for you, then that to me is just everything. On the side of wealth, like financial wealth, again, like the gains that I've had of being able to travel the world and like experience culture, and like I've taught thousands and thousands of people way before COVID, all over the world, how to do makeup. And I think I was, in a sense, one of the first to do something like that. Like in 2019, I did a Latin America tour. So I think it was 24 countries in 6 months, just one after the other.
Yeah.
I'm teaching thousands of people in each country. And again, just the gain that I've got from that was, it was about humanity.
Yes.
It was about meeting people and seeing people that are so much either better off than me or worse off than me, and just seeing how we're all just people. And we can still all communicate with each other and be in the same room as each other. It doesn't matter where you come from or where you're at that present time.
Yeah.
We're just people. And I think that is a very valuable lesson that I hope everyone gets to learn, because listen, like I've been at the point where I thought, yeah, I'm doing a bit better than everyone else.
Yeah.
It happens when you start earning money and you start growing. But I've had a lot of culture shocks where I'm like, actually, you can fall down as quick as you can get up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've just gained a lot of empathy over my last 8 years, and I've been able to really, hopefully, make a lot of difference to the people that I care about in their lives.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect note for us to actually end on.
Thank
Because
you.
you sound wealthy all around. And I love that for you.
Well, I feel even more wealthy now I've got you in my life.
Thank you.
Thank
Where
you,
can people
Patricia.
find you? Obviously, they might not need to know.
We've got TikTok, which is made by Mitchell. I've got my home account, which is Mason by Mitchell. So you can see all like what's going on there. Again, it's going to be a real journey, that, because again, it's just it's not an overnight kind of thing, unfortunately, which has been a big shock to me. I thought, I can get it done in 3 months.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And then obviously Mama Mitchell on Instagram and Made by Mitchell on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And yeah, I am going to be blushing today and adding a little bit extra.
I've got you some goodies. But thank you, Patricia. And I think what you do as well is just, it's magical, because money is such a taboo topic anyway, but you don't just talk about money. And you really, for me, you've opened a lot of people's eyes to really realizing that wealth is not just money. Wealth is your health. It's so much more than just what you've got in your bank account. And I think you're just a real voice of reason.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. No, you're amazing.
It's a real honor being here.
Oh, thank you.
Loved
very
you for
much.
years. So this feels
thank
very
you
crazy.
so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.